This podcast is sponsored by MD Serono and AbbVie.
Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast. Happy to be here as always. As you know, I'm Victoria and this is Patient and You podcast, and we're here to talk about all things health, but really we want to get, I want to say underneath the sheets. We don't want to say that. Behind the curtains is what I was trying to say. We want to really peel back the curtains on health, on the health experience, on a healthcare journey, and really get to the core of the patient and you and the patient and my guest today, which is Justin Hall. And so before we get into it, I want to talk about why we chose Justin, why I wanted to talk about Justin and talk to Justin. So we actually met at like a small little conference or workshop?
Yeah.
It was like an autoimmune patient workshop. And so it was a workshop where they invited people that lived with multiple autoimmune illnesses to one place to kind of learn about being a patient advocate. And so I was able to meet him, and I realized that he was Atlanta-based like me. And I knew that I would at some point sit down with Justin to talk about his experience because I, as most of you know, I live with MS, but I see myself more as a patient, not just an MS patient, but a patient, because I'm so fascinated and curious about patienthood, what I call it. And patienthood is like the lifestyle of being a patient. It's more than the diagnosis. It's more than that person. We live with these things every day. And whether you're newly diagnosed or you're somewhat of a veteran at whatever your illness is, I'm very fascinated in everyone's experiences. And so, Justin, welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Glad
being
to be
here. Yeah. And so what we're talking about today is I think it's called a vitiligan. Are you a vitiligan?
I guess I am a vitiligan.
A
yes.
vitiligan?
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to get the names right. You know
vitiligan tribe of Northeast Africa. But no, yes.
I know, because it's like, with MS, like, you're an MSer, you know what I mean? Or like, are you there's like, we don't have a sophisticated name like vitiligan, but you want to use it in the proper tense and all that. And so tell me first, tell me when you were diagnosed and what you're diagnosed with.
So, it's kind of fuzzy. It's been a while ago, but when I was 17, I noticed my first light patch, first spot on my elbow. Okay. And I played high school basketball, went on to play basketball after that. But when you play basketball, you dive on the floor a lot. So you have floor burns and knee burns. Anybody that's been on a gym floor with wax, you have burns all the time.
I remember the gym floor burns.
Yeah, exactly. And so pigment didn't come back on my elbow, and I just assumed, it's a floor burn. And then I, maybe later on that year, the next year, had another spot exactly the same size. They were both about dime-sized spots on my other elbow. And I remember my friend's mother said, you may have vitiligo. I didn't know what it was. And didn't think nothing of it. Went on to college, like I said, 2 dime-sized spots on my elbow. And I think starting to around that graduation time, 22, 23, I know I had lost pigment in my index finger.
Okay.
And that made me go to a dermatologist, and the dermatologist like, yes, you have vitiligo.
Okay.
And
what, if you remember that moment when do you remember what the doctor looks like?
I do. So
we're going to get to all these things.
We should so I do remember that. I will say, and we'll get to more in depth on this later on, but the first doctor I went to, she thought it was vitiligo, but she had never seen vitiligo outside of a textbook. And she had never had, as a dermatologist, she told me she had never had a patient of color before me. And this is Atlanta, Georgia, chocolate city, but, just this particular doctor had not. So then I went to another doctor who was of color, and right away she knew, and much better, warm and fuzzy feeling. And she's like, look, not a lot of treatments, but here's where we can begin if you want to treat this.
Wow. Lots to unpack. I want to talk about so much now. Wow. I'm glad you shared that. Thank you for sharing that. The reason why I asked if you remember that doctor is because I want you to go back to that moment, if you can remember, when the doctor either thought, maybe the first or second doctor, but when you got that diagnosis or when you heard that it might be vitiligo, tell me what you thought. Were you scared? Were you like, what is this? What did you think?
Honestly, at the time, wasn't scared. And it was so unnoticeable. It was half of my index finger and still 2 spots on my elbow and nothing else. So I think at the time I assumed, well, if it's just 3 little spots, who cares?
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't big. It didn't seem, I said, well, am I affected internally? And they're like, no, it's just the loss of pigment there. And so it wasn't too life-shattering or altering at that particular moment.
Yeah. Had you heard, this is my last question because we off the script, but had you heard of vitiligo before?
I had not.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think I had.
Run it back. You said you were 17 when you saw your first spot?
Yes, and I think a friend's mother said it may be that.
Yeah.
But between that and 5 years later when I got the real diagnosis, had not met anybody with vitiligo. I take that back. I had met someone with vitiligo, went to high school with someone with vitiligo, but we did not, no one knew what it was. He didn't even know his diagnosis. So that
I have so many questions.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my brain is like, okay, but wait a minute. My first question is, you're saying at 17, you're a millennial, right?
Yes.
Okay. At 17, you hadn't heard of it or maybe met anybody, but you didn't think of Michael Jackson? Because that's what I thought. I mean, when I think of, I feel like Black people are like, vitiligo, Michael Jackson.
I think we do now. I think we're cultured enough. We live in a different age now. And we'll talk more about this now, but over the last year, I've been actually working on a vitiligo documentary concerning Michael Jackson. And
Lord,
we did not think, everybody said, oh, he's dying his skin.
So
he's
it
trying
was like
to become
fake
white.
news.
Yeah, it wasn't. We didn't know the word vitiligo in the mid 80s. And I mean, he saw his first real spots late 70s, but first major spot on his left hand. That's why he wears the sequence glove in the 83 Motown 25 performance, because he only had vitiligo on that one hand. And he didn't want to wear 2 gloves, so he wore 1 glove, because also it would make people say, why does he have 1 glove on? But that was 1983, and even he was seeing doctors that didn't know what it was at that time.
This is deep.
So, yeah.
But not what I'm hearing, but what's coming up for me is that before 17, I associated vitiligo with Michael Jackson, fact or faux. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it was a whole thing that he was lying about it. And so because people thought he was lying about it or whatever they thought, they didn't do digging or research to know what vitiligo was, because you lying. You know what I mean? And so, I'm speaking for myself and I guess my family. It was more like, yes, I know the term. I know what it is because of him, but because I don't know if this man got it or not, I didn't do my research. Does that make sense? It's like the education stopped there.
And I will say the first time I heard him say it is that famous Oprah interview where he says, I'm sorry, but even that interview is from like 99. So when I noticed my first 2 spots, it was like 97, 98.
Okay.
So it was before that. And even then, even after he said that, everybody's still, oh, you're lying.
Right. So you don't learn if you think you're dismissing someone. And so dismissal is something that I think a lot of patients deal with, because especially when it's an invisible illness. Now, vitiligo, I wouldn't call that an invisible illness.
No.
But
it's considered cosmetic. So that's why it's dismissed, because it won't, I've had doctors say, and I work with so many people that have doctors say, well, it won't kill you. It's not going to kill you. You're good. Are you in pain? Because especially when you see autoimmune specialists, they're seeing people with MS, celiacs, lupus, rheumatoid arthritis, and they're like, "Are you in pain?" Because I have 12 other people here that are in pain.
Yeah.
And so it's dismissed. But there's pain that comes in other forms of form. It's not just
we're gonna get there.
Physical pain.
Because I'm so curious.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing this. I feel like we could talk for a long time about this. Okay. And so with the dismissiveness of it, you kind of mentioned that you kind of dismissed it a little bit. Like you knew that you were dealing with something, but you're like, if it's going to be on my finger, this is manageable for me.
Yeah.
Did they ever tell you that it will or can spread? Did they educate you in that way?
I honestly don't remember.
Yeah.
That's been about 20 years at this point.
Yeah.
But it did rapidly spread after that. So I'm one of the people it spread, and we did the best treatments at the time were essentially topical steroid treatments. And actually, after treating for 3 years, all of my vitiligo went away.
Really?
So
your pigment came back?
Pigment all came back. And I had only lost pigment a little bit in my face, but face, hands, wrists, shoulders, all of it came back.
And
so I'm like, I'm good.
I'm not trying to be funny, but were you light skinned or dark skinned before? It started spreading to your face.
I mean,
would you consider yourself
brown skin? Because you see like the same complexion I at where I do have pigment. I was always that pigment.
So what's that, middle?
Middle.
You
middle skinned.
The reason why I'm saying is because in the Black community, it is like shades to it, right? Categories. Yeah. I'm the yellow girl. I'm the light skinned girl, and then there's a dark skinned person. You know what I mean? And so I can imagine that if it spreads, not for you particularly, but if it spreads, then that's a loss of identity in a different kind of way.
Oh yeah. That's with, as you said, vitiligans. That's what they deal with all the time. And the elephant in the room, the thing that people don't want to say is if you're darker complected, it's more of a contrast. So it pops.
Yeah.
With me, if I have a baseball cap on, maybe you just think I'm just this fair skinned when you see my face.
Justin.
Yeah, and you wouldn't. But if you're darker complected and that pop really happens, you see it. And then there's people that if you were Caucasian, and vitiligo affects all races, ethnicities equally. So if you're Caucasian, you may not notice it till you're in the sun. And then you notice, where you're tanning, you see the big difference.
Well, I ain't gonna lie. I did not know that white people had vitiligo.
Yeah.
Until I met one. Okay. And I was like, where? Where?
And that's usually
and it immediately let me know that this affects vitiligans differently, even within your own community.
Yeah.
Because if I couldn't really tell with her, or I can only tell in the sun, but with you, because you have a darker, shade of melanin, it's going to be a contrast if you have one spot on your face. We could talk about this for a long time. Okay, so let me bring it back. I want to formally introduce you.
Sounds good.
Okay. Justin Hall is a speaker, an author, and a vitiligo advocate. Justin's mission to bring awareness to the vitiligo community has sparked meaningful conversation around a disease that doesn't typically get as much attention as it deserves, empowering those living with the disease who need to feel powerful in their skin the most. His children's book, Aiden's Spots, follows a kindergartner living with vitiligo on his first day of school. The book empowers children to embrace their differences and educate those who may not understand them. That is so sweet. And I'm smiling because my daughter's in kindergarten. And so this, she loves stories and we love story time. And we need more books like this. We need more moments like that where we can teach our children and educate them in small moments about things that may not affect them directly, but that they may see someone at the mall, with vitiligo, and this is what it is. Not to say they won't ask, but this is what it is.
Yeah.
And letting them know it earlier than apparently we knew it, right?
Exactly.
Or that one day you get a spot, you kind of already know what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. And so I want to get back to what we were talking about.
Mm-hmm.
With what year would you say, because you said that someone said that it might be vitiligo, but you weren't sure. What year was it, were you officially diagnosed?
2003-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you said that it spread quickly. And so with that, what was that journey like? Like, take us on that. Like, how was it for you? Was it shock? Was it, I need to get this figured out? I need to get this under control? Or did you embrace it? What was your acceptance journey like?
So I guess I have embraced it more now, but at the time I was in treatment, which seemed to help.
Yeah.
And I've had many other journeys throughout this life. So I ran a production company. So I was, in certain things I did, I was in front of the camera a lot. And so at those moments, because we were on a set like we are today, so there was always a makeup person. So I'd always ask that person, hey, can you touch me up real quick? But makeup is a pain, especially as a...
Are you talking to a woman right now?
Yes. And so, but I will say, especially wearing makeup on your hands and other places that just aren't your face, because then like the top of my car was all full of makeup on the sky, like anywhere I would touch, my walls, everywhere in my bathroom. And it was just a nightmare. So I was like, look, I can't do this. But it really wasn't. I think my journey is a little bit different to others. But I am empathetic to everyone because I want to help everybody out there. But mine was different. It wasn't, I had maybe 12 other things that were ahead of vitiligo, like that bothered me or things that maybe I was insecure about that I wanted to rectify. It wasn't something I thought about on a daily basis.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you being honest about that.
Yeah.
I think that, like for me with MS, sometimes I've had MS for a while, since 2012, 13 years. Yeah.
Okay.
And so there's been ebbs and flows of my journey. And some of them had to do with feeling a little bit like I shouldn't be talking about this because mine is not as bad as someone else. Or I'm on the other side of my diagnosis. And so there's not much of a compelling story here because like I'm good, or I'm an advocate and I'm talking about it so much, I can almost disconnect from my experience because now my journey is so much more about other people than my own. Sometimes in a good way, sometimes in a bad way. Like you got to check your own stuff. But I think that's really honest of you to say, I kind of was okay. Like my journey wasn't extremely, traumatic. Or, maybe someone else may have had a different experience in that. And I appreciate your honesty on that.
Yeah. I mean, that's, and I talk to people all the time. And, part of becoming an advocate was trying to help others help them, I don't want to say get to where I'm at, but feel better about their situation. Because sometimes, when this has become overwhelming, your vitiligo, what else are you lacking in? Are you now no longer a good father or a good husband? Are you no longer a good brother or sister because this has consumed you? And how do you get back to where you are? And I feel mine's different. And part of writing the book is because mine in my mid-20s being diagnosed, I had an identity already. It wasn't something that, oh man, I'm never going to get a date.
Yeah.
I had a...
Oh, you said I don't have trouble in that area.
Yeah, I had an identity. I didn't... But if you're a child and you're diagnosed at 3 or 4 years old and you grow up with vitiligo, then that changes how you see the world and changes how you see yourself.
Mm-hmm. And so you kind of hinted at it a little bit, but you said I've been dealing with other things other than this. Were there other health issues, or you're just saying like life can be harder than the vitiligo? Yes,
life can be harder than the vitiligo.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I understand. Okay. And so I just want to make sure we pause to talk about the through line here and why we're even here for Patient and You podcast. We're both patients, but everyone is a patient technically, right? Everyone goes to the doctor. Everyone has been a patient a time or two. Now, why you're a patient on that day, or whatever you're seeing your doctor about or healthcare provider about, that there's levels to it, right? That varies, but all of us are patients. But how are we as patients? Who are we as patients? How do we navigate patienthood? How do we navigate the journey of a diagnosis? And I'm really honored to be talking to Justin today because he's also an advocate like myself. And I kind of touched on it a little bit, but feeling a little disconnected to my own journey sometimes because I'm so busy helping other people. Everything I do for We Are Ill and the MS community, I've found a way to disconnect in a moment. And I'm connected to my own journey and then disconnected. And then I'm connected and then I'm disconnected. And I'm bringing this up because as you're helping people, right? And you mentioned being diagnosed in your 20s, you already had your identity. Have there been times since where this became your identity as an advocate, where you felt like, I'm talking about this too much, or like, I'm Justin the vitiligo guy? Like, has that ever occurred to you?
It honestly hasn't. I'm still at the point where I enjoy speaking about it. I enjoy helping people. I've embraced that more. I used to get annoyed with, I don't say questions, but I would get stopped a lot. And like people say, oh, hey, you have vitiligo, or I'd be in a grocery store, my brother has vitiligo, or
and as I got closer,
just out the blue. And as I got closer to becoming an advocate, see, when it's something internal people can't see with mine, I wear it as a billboard. So, but then that's when I got into, okay, maybe I should help people because someone stopped me in a grocery store. My brother hasn't left his house in 3 years because of his vitiligo. He needs somebody to talk to. And it's things that I get encountered that I'm probably not qualified to help somebody, but as an advocate, I want to point them in the right direction.
Yeah.
And then also show them, hey, this is the other side of it. This is my story. But all the time, hey, my brother, my grandmother, they're a recluse. They haven't worked. They haven't left their house. And honestly, I think, what we don't discuss, I think like even dating and relationships and finding people, finding partners, I get a lot of questions on that. And it's usually more men, which I was shocked because it's not my story, but it's a lot of men that, you know what, I haven't dated in 2 years. I haven't had a partner since I was diagnosed 5 years ago. Wow. Will I ever get married? Will I ever find a partner? And that was shocking to me.
And when you talk to these people in your findings, is there a kind of a commonality as to why they have these concerns about dating? Is it shame? Is it because they get stares? Is it because, when they approach women are like, no, like what are they saying? What's coming up for them?
I think it's their own insecurities, which I think anybody, if you're overweight or you had some other thing that you're insecure about, you may be like, oh, I can't find a partner. But with vitiligo, I think it's life experience. I've had gentlemen that I've worked with, a guy that told me he had a horrible story. He was dating somebody and not told her he had vitiligo. And I have generalized vitiligo where it's essentially everywhere. There's people that have what's called segmental vitiligo, where it might just be a cluster in one spot.
Okay.
And so his vitiligo was just in his midsection. So upon dating this person, she had never came up. They got to a point where in the relationship, they both were getting undressed and she saw this vitiligo and it was a big problem to her. And that situation, he carried that one situation for the next 10 years. Like, oh, I can't talk to anybody because as soon as I take off my pants, it's gonna be an issue. And maybe she was just a bad person. And maybe
one person can change your trajectory.
Yeah, and the next person won't be like that. So,
oh my goodness. I just wish I could hug everybody and talk to everybody, because this is the type of stuff. Well, one, I know that this conversation will be so helpful to people because it's helping me, and I don't have vitiligo, but it just, interpersonally, you know what I mean? Like hearing, this isn't even your story, and I'm over here like, dang, what can I do to help this? Like what would he need? Where would he find help had he not found you? And so that leads me to finding community. So you mentioned people say stuff to you at the grocery store, and now that you're an advocate, have you found community?
So
And how
yes
is that?
and no. I'm a part of several communities.
Mm-hmm.
With vitiligo, we find the support groups are best.
Okay.
And that's why I try to plug support groups. And I'll plug now. If you have not found a support group and you have vitiligo, I'm looking right in the camera. I'm saying globalvitiligofoundation.org, which is shortened to GVF. You can literally click on your zip code and state and find a support group, because support groups are vital.
Yeah.
Because we're in 2025 and I meet people every day to say, well, are there treatments? Can I go to the doctor? And I live in this world. I'm at scientific symposiums twice a year. I travel all over. I go to, I'm privileged to go to have the access to the best, to clinical trials and all the new technology going on with vitiligo. So I know, but the average person doesn't know. And they're like, is there any kind of treatment? I've seen the Opsilor commercial with Morgan Freeman. Can I get that? How do I get that? My insurance won't cover it. So I get all those questions. Or who can I talk to like me, or where can I get the support? So support groups are vital, and I try to encourage people to get in them, because maybe you have your church or your family, but maybe if you have 10 other people in the room that look like you, and you feel like you're not alone, or you feel like, oh man, I didn't know everybody else gets stares. I didn't know that other people feel this way, or and that helps you not feel alone, and maybe helps you with some of those problems, because you realize you're not alone in this.
Yeah. And I'm also going to stare at the camera. Support groups are crucial, and I think they're so slept on. I think when you think about them, I'm not gonna lie. When I first got diagnosed, I thought, like, that's for white people.
Yeah.
Going sitting around in a circle kumbaya about being sick is wild to me. Like, at the time, it's wild. I'm not about to talk to y'all about it. What are you talking to y'all about? Like, y'all don't know y'all. I'm about to, I ain't about to tell my business, and I even think, a part of me was like, that's corny. You're stronger than that. You don't need to go sit in no circle talking to people. That's corny. And I'm glad that I changed my mind on that. And honestly, I didn't get in this. I was looking for community, but I sure wasn't looking for a support group. I was looking for what my life was going to look like in 15 years or 20 years. I was trying to find like a Black woman so I could be like, okay, well, what are you going through? What are you doing? How are you talking to your family about it? Because no one in my family has MS. No one that I knew had MS. And I'm like, I just need to talk to somebody who has it. I just need to. And when I did start to look for community, I went to a support group and I never went back. I went one time. And it was not because the support group was so bad, but I felt like I didn't belong, even in a room full of people with MS, because I didn't have a cane or a walker or anything extremely visible. And I felt like I can't be myself here. I can't complain here. They have a far worse condition, in their MS, or far worse, mobilization than me. I can't complain in here. I don't need to feel grief when I'm talking about my own grief. I can't feel guilty, and so I'm like, this ain't the room for me, and I never went back. And that took me 4 years to go to a support group, because I was like, just no way, I'm not doing it. And so my perspective has changed so much, because when I realized I couldn't find community and I realized so many other people needed community, I built one. And then it was like, this is what I needed. I needed one that was like this, because the message was in the messenger. Those other support groups, they weren't saying what I needed to hear, or I didn't feel comfortable, sharing in those spaces. And so I'm really proud of you. I'm really grateful for you. And I think that the work that you're doing, you talking so casual, like, I was good. I got girls. I ain't had no dating problems, and it didn't really bother me. But I want you to know that the work you're doing is so needed. Even the few stories that you've shared with us today of the questions that you get, that is major, especially for men, to be asking you about dating and will I ever find somebody. Like, I don't think I've ever heard a Black man talk about will I ever find somebody.
I was just shocked. Yeah. I was like, oh, okay. But that's great.
But that's the help that people need.
Yeah.
It's not necessary. And you did mention, like, people definitely ask about treatments a lot, And so that's helpful. But sometimes people like really just want to be like, yeah, I get stares. And this is what I do when I get stares.
Yeah.
You know, like I flinch at them.
Yeah.
Or like I get stares, and not to say what's the solution for it, but just the fact that I get stares, you get stares. You know what I mean? And so have you ever dealt with anything like that? Like a kid, like, what's that?
Yeah, kids will say stuff. I mean, sometimes kids, I've had only one situation where a child was kind of disrespectful, and I think it came from their parental person, I guess, had said something, and then they came and just said what they said.
No.
But that was weird, but but not a lot. And it's normally, I was at the zoo with one of my daughters, and it was a woman that came up to us and said, "Hey, my daughter is 7 and she's never seen anybody else out in public besides her that has vitiligo. Would you come talk to her?" And I'm like, "Sure." And she was there at the zoo, and we had a brief conversation. So normally it's a good reaction.
Yeah.
And I will say, I think my wife normally says to me, she notices the staring more than I do. Like I'm just impervious. Maybe I don't see it. And normally I'm a driven person. I'm usually multitasking, doing 9 things at the same time.
Right.
When I am in the grocery store or anywhere else, so I don't notice.
Yeah.
And even if I did notice, I wouldn't care.
Mm-hmm.
But she picks up on that.
So it just doesn't bother you?
No, it doesn't bother me.
Do you stare back or do you look away?
It depends on the person. So I recently I was traveling for a vitiligo event with another young lady that has vitiligo, and we were sitting in the airport.
Yeah.
And one of the restaurants in the airport, and there was a little girl next to us, and she was staring. And we were having a conversation and eating, and I wasn't paying attention, but she saw the girl staring. And so she said, "Would you like to come over here?" And the parents were like, "No, we're so sorry. We didn't know she was staring." She's like, "No, it's cool." And she came over and she said, "We both have vitiligo." And she's like, "It doesn't hurt. My skin is just like yours. It's just I have lost a pigment on my skin." The girl's probably 4 or 5.
And she's like, pigment?
Yeah, pigment. And then she tried to explain more. She's like, "Do you want to touch?" And the girl touched her, and she's like, "See, it doesn't hurt." And she says that anybody can have it. Little girls, little boys, doesn't matter the color. And I thought that was great. And not that I wouldn't explain it, but I wouldn't even notice the child staring at me most of the time. And she did. And that's what, we need people like her as well. That's what makes it so unique, because you should take, I think in the beginning, I didn't take those teaching opportunities, and other people would say, "No, that could have been a good teaching moment, Justin." And not just, and I wasn't, or like I said, I rarely got those bad things. Like very few times. I'm like, "Why your face look that?" And I'd be like, "Why's your face look like that?" It wasn't, and
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Why your face look like that?
Yeah. Like, I mean, for me though, I really wanted, this is bad too. I would like people to say bad stuff, because then I can say something crazy to you.
Oh, you want an excuse to be crazy too?
Yeah, but then that's not the teaching moment. That's not the human I've evolved to be now. But
you sound like me. I'm looking for a reason. Say something crazy to me.
Exactly.
Okay. And so this is a nice segue to children. You have a book.
Yes.
And then you also said you're a father. How old are your kids?
I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
Are they both girls?
Yes, 2 girls.
Okay. And so I imagine you wrote this. Did you write this based off your experience with them, or just the fact that you knew that children of their age potentially could use this?
Yeah. So not so much them, because I wrote it when the 4-year-old, I think she was 1. She was pretty small. So it was mainly written because at the time I still speak a lot, but at the time I was speaking in a lot of public schools.
Okay.
I think I've spoken in something around 120 different public schools. And a lot of times they bring me in on like anti-bullying campaigns whenever they do that month, or Stop the Hate. And so I would come in and speak, and normally, very rarely, there's a child with vitiligo. Sometimes there is, which is great. But a lot of times kids would come up to me with other stuff like, "Hey, I'm overweight." In high schools, I've had kids, "Hey, I think I'm gay. I think this, and I think people are bothering me because of this. How can I get confidence? How can I But I started thinking with those other questions, if a child had vitiligo, and I think about the questions mainly that adults ask me, does it hurt? Did someone pour acid on you? Were you struck by lightning? All these crazy questions. And I have the data to answer them.
Yeah.
But would a 5-year-old have that data or have that toolbox to say, no, it's autoimmune?
Yeah.
It's the melanocytes in the skin cells. My immune system is killing the healthy skin cells in my body, and that's why I'm loss of pigment.
Yeah.
And how could I trickle down that information to make it digestible for a 5-year-old in order to give a 5-year-old those tools? Because I would get those same questions from the teachers when I was in an elementary school. And after the presentation, they would ask me, well, does it hurt? Where did you get it? And I was thinking, like, these are the teachers. If they're asking me this question,
you know the kids are.
How would a kid fend for themselves being asked those same questions? And that's what led me to write the book.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you were about to go there, but I realized that I didn't take the time to give the textbook definition of vitiligo.
Yeah.
It's a chronic autoimmune disease that causes white patches to appear on the skin. It can also affect hair and the inside of the mouth. I didn't know that about the inside of the mouth. Okay. And so I know we need to kind of wrap up our conversation, but before we do and get to another segment, I wanted you to share advice. You mentioned, it seems like a through line is that you give a lot of advice. And it also feels like you're at a very mature place with it. I mean, whether you started there or you're in there, you're in a good place. A perceived good place. I would never want to assume.
Yeah.
You're in a good place with it. What advice would you give to those listening out there that may be dealing with vitiligo or think they have it, but they're not in a good place? They don't feel comfortable or proud to be in their skin. What would you say?
First thing is treatment. If you do want to explore treatment externally for your skin, there are so many treatment options out there, and the data and the science is literally changing every day. Okay. I'm at conferences all the time, and it's changing. So the tools are there. So I would say, investigate those tools. Get you a good dermatologist. I know that's easier said than done all the time with healthcare.
Yeah.
But try to find an adequate dermatologist. Number 2, find a support group and get it there. And, what people don't like to talk about, not only the support group, is therapy. I am not qualified to, if you haven't left your house in 3 years, I would be the first person to show up, which I have in those situations, and speak to you, but I'm not qualified to help you because there is something else going on. If you're having, like I said, if you've been a recluse or you're just not interacting socially because you're vitiligo, there's other things going on we need to treat.
Right.
So getting that treatment, finding that healthy space and getting there is so important to help get to that next step of your journey.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Well, you're definitely making an impact on the world, and I appreciate you. And I'm sure everyone else does too. How can people connect with you?
JustinTHall.com. Sorry, I had to think for a second. You can the book's there. You can see where we're speaking. You could follow me on Instagram. I'm pretty active on IG.
What's your Instagram?
It is at Grindpreneur. That is GRINDPRENEUR, Grindpreneur. So my vitiligo journey, among all my other business and other ventures and other journeys.
Yeah.
You can follow me there. Same thing on YouTube. Follow my weekly vlog there where, I navigate through the rest of the world, and I just so happen to have vitiligo. So, yeah.
Okay. And the book, where can we get the book?
You get it on my website as well, JustinTHall.com, Aiden Spots, actually. And in June, we have Daddy's Skin, which is my newest book, which is coming out. And I kind of wrote that in dealing with, now my daughters are 2 and 4, and they have not mentioned my vitiligo yet. But I know
your 4-year-old has never said anything.
She has never said anything, which is, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. I spoke to a child psychologist recently, and she said, maybe you should start bringing it up. And so, but she has not said anything.
So you read the book to her?
Yeah, we've read the book to her, and she just has not asked. But I know those questions are coming because I know I just know it's coming.
And it's probably more from you noticing you look different than other people versus you look different to them. You know?
Yeah.
Like, that's
and
your
that's what it
face.
is. Or other people are going to say, why does your dad look like that?
Yeah.
Why
the
does your
friends
dad
at
look different?
school.
Friends at school. And right now, I'm just Parker's dad when I show up to school. None of the kids have said it, but I know it will happen. So that's what led to writing the other book, to help parents give that explanation and digestible information to little children as well. And as a family, because maybe other parents haven't thought about how are they going to have this conversation with their child.
Yeah. And I love that. And I'm thinking about that next step of, what we talked about with kids having to deal with other kids. Like, your daughter may at one point talk to you fine about vitiligo when it's y'all two. But then when she is alone at school and her friends are asking, and they may say something silly or mean, or just out of curiosity, what tools does she have in her toolbox? Because, and that's another reason why this podcast is so great, and the topic is because our diagnosis is more than just about us. It does affect, like you mentioned, your wife notices the stares. It does affect her experience, because sometimes she might be about to run up on somebody, or she might be the one looking back. Like, why are you looking at him? Or defensiveness or something. Or maybe she worried about you a time or two, and then your daughter. And so it's more than just you. Yeah.
Yes. And that's what this journey has helped me too, because I probably was selfish in a lot of those ways. My wife and I actually went to a conference on married couples where one of the spouses has vitiligo, and super niche little conference. But seeing what the spouse that didn't have vitiligo would say during these times, I asked my wife, I was like, are these some of the things that I never thought about? A lot of it was someone staring, is, are your coworkers or your family saying what's wrong with your husband or what's wrong with your spouse? And these are things that I was not even thinking about. So, a lot of now when I speak, I want to make sure I'm including that spouse or that partner
or that child
in your life, or the child, because, it does affect everyone else.
Yeah. I'm smiling because this is just the work that I'm so passionate about. There's so many different avenues we could go. And I really appreciate when we're able to talk about the experiences of those around you, those who love you, those who are affected by it as well. It's not just, the you and me's of the world, right?
Exactly.
There is a whole thing. So I appreciate that.
Oh,
It's
thank
great
you.
having you. Thank you for coming.
It was a pleasure being here.
So I know we're done with our conversation, but Justin, would you mind sticking around for our next segment?
I would love to.
Too often, we're quiet about our health issues, our health curiosity. We're just quiet about it. So we're going to talk about it. And we're going to do that in our segment called Let's Talk About It. So Triple, do you have a question for me?
Hi, Victoria. Thank you again for this. My name is Kelly, and I'm calling from Atlanta. I've been married to my husband for 6 years, and I swear the hardest thing about our relationship is getting him to go to the doctor. My husband, he's smart, ambitious, a great caretaker for me and our kids. But when it comes to taking care of himself, he tends to put things on the back burner. I've tried not to nag or be too pushy about it, but as we are quickly approaching 40, I think it's important for him to stay up on his health screenings and checkups. I try to get him to take his vitamins every day to at least help calm my nerves, but even that is a task. How can I get him to take a more proactive stance in his health care? How do I lead a man who is a natural leader to do something he doesn't want to do?
Ooh, girl, I could talk about this for days. I'm curious to know what Justin thinks, but I will say to your last ultimate questions, how do you get your man who's a natural leader to be that same person in this area? And the answer is you can't. It is something that he has to do. Now, as his wife? Wife? As his wife, you know your man. You been knew your man. And this is just a new area of knowing your husband. And so I believe how you do one thing is how you can do everything. If he is a leader in every other area and is ambitious, I believe he can be that in this area. I think you have to pull that out of him. And I think only a wife can probably do that. I think that one, it's important to get to the root of maybe why he may be avoidant. A lot of men, for some reason, I don't have stats, but a lot of men are avoidant of healthcare. So many wives or women in men's lives, they complain like they can't get their husband to go to the doctor, or they have to do the doctor's appointment for them or make it. And I think that it's so true. It's more common than we think. And I think as a wife, I'm a new wife. I'm just making the appointments. I'm managing it like everything else. I'm making the appointments, but I'm also communicating like, babe, I know you may not think this is important, but your health matters to me. And for me, our daughter. If you are not healthy, if you're not aware of what's going on, that could take you away from us, or that could change our life as it is, as how we know it. And I wouldn't want that. And I worry. And so you don't want me to worry, do you? So please help me not worry by at least going to your general appointments for maintenance. And I'm happy to make the appointment for you. And I would approach it that way, because when you start telling a man, go to the doctor, I'm going to do that, you need to do that, they don't be trying to hear it. And so I think it's a middle ground of really figuring out why he may be avoidant. And especially, and I would even pull that leader thing on him. I know that you're very ambitious. You're a leader in every aspect of your life. You're a leader in this relationship. But I'm curious to know why I can't count on you to lead in this area. I'm looking to you for that. I would hit him right where it hurt. What do you think, Justin? Especially as a husband.
As a husband, yeah, I think you have to hit him where it hurts. If he's smart and ambitious, I think data helps. And I mean, so say, look, you're 40 years old. Statistically, you have 31 years left with us. That's 8,000 Mondays. It's not a lot of time. So if you're going to lead us as a family, you're going to lead our children. If you're going to protect our children, we need you to be here as long as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And give them this airplane scenario. On an airplane, what do they tell you to do? If you're going down, before you help the person next to you, put on your own mask and then help the person next to you. Because if you can't breathe, you can't help anybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same with life. If you are not healthy, you can't help lead anybody else.
Yeah. I love that. But it's a really good conversation that, we need to spend more time on. Men's health. It's something about that duality of being leader, strong, protector that is amazing, but the duality of healthcare and how it makes one vulnerable or can make one vulnerable, it's almost, to me, what it seems like the men have a hard time balancing both at the same time. Like, if I'm sick, how can I be a leader? But it's like, just because you're not getting diagnosed and you haven't been to the doctor doesn't mean you're not sick. You're still going to be sick.
And I think people are just scared too.
Yes, absolutely.
Who wants to know they're dying? But you also, if you could catch something early, I think people are just scared.
They are.
But you have to realize that if you are truly a protector, you need to be here as long as possible to protect those people you care about. And that involves getting adequate health care. But I think too, as a man, you're so busy, and usually everyone else's needs probably normally come before your own within the house. So
my husband says, I'm the last on the totem pole. I'm even after the dog.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dang, I get it, but dang.
Yeah.
And I think that not only, but it's helpful when men are leading the conversations about this amongst other men, because it's a safe space. And you all would know that weight that you all carry on your shoulders of being this leader, this protector, this, provider, all these things. It's only you all can understand that. I could try to relate, even though I'm well aware, but I could never relate on a personal level, and I think that's probably what this husband needs, a little conversation with other men. And it's so crazy. We got to pull out the stats just to get these men to the hospital or to the doctor, like real stats. But that's real.
I think we got another podcast segment here.
Ooh.
You need a panel discussion with men to figure out why. Yeah.
I'd love to do it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this was a great conversation. I want to thank you again for coming.
Thank you for having me.
I learned a lot. I'm in the fields. I have so many follow-up questions that we won't be able to cover, but this was really good.
Awesome. I'll come back and answer some more.
Yeah, season 2.
Yes.
Season 2. Let's claim it.
If you have questions related to your health, patienthood, navigating the healthcare system, advocating as a caregiver, finding community in your wellness journey, or anything related to being Black and ill, record it in a voice note or write it in a letter and send it to me at podcast@weareillms.com.
And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a 5-star review or rating wherever you listen. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, simply leave us a review. It helps people find the show. And if you know someone who would find what we talked about today helpful, please share this episode with them. And if you want to connect with us on social media, you can find us on Instagram at Patient in You. You can also find We Are Ill at We Are Illmatic. Until next time, I'm Victoria Reese, and you're listening to Patient in You. Patient in You is a podcast from We Are Ill. It is hosted by me, Victoria Reese. Our producer is Tribble at Ask Tribble Inc. Original music by Laura Burke. Video content produced by Joshua Duane and Matt Ellis. Don't forget to find us on Instagram at Patient in You and subscribe to our YouTube channel at We Are Ill MS for the full video version of each episode. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend and leave us a 5-star rating wherever you listen to podcasts. It helps people find us. For more information about We Are Ill, our programs, and our initiatives, visit our website, weareillms.com.
The Patient in You podcast is for informational purposes only and not medical advice. We Are Ill is not a medical organization. Always consult your physician before making health decisions.
This podcast is sponsored by MD Serono and AbbVie.